Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord. Oh, how he loves. Oh, how he loves. Oh, how he loves.
of Judges, chapter 2. And the generation, what happened was that when they got into the promised land, some of them forgot. And what they did wrong was they didn't deal with their enemies by getting rid of their enemies. But they was in the land of milk and honey, the land of prosperity.
Yes, Lord.
How many of you know that we're in that land of milk and honey right now? We're living in houses that we never thought we could live in. We got land, we got jobs, we got opportunities that we never thought we'd have. So we're living in that land of prosperity. And what happened with that generation, they forgot to remember who brought them out of Egypt. They forgot the God who is a rock. They turned their back and they got out there and they got, how many of you know that freedom is good?
Amen.
But freedom still must be monitored.
Yes.
You can have freedom in your house, and if you don't be careful, you will make some mistakes, such as just because you got freedom to stay up all night because you're grown, you don't stay up all night because you know you got to go to work the next day. So if you abuse that privilege of staying up all night, you might not want to go to work the next morning because you done stayed out to 4 or 5 at night. That's freedom. You have freedom to eat what you want to eat. Nobody can tell you what not to eat. But if you're a diabetic, you better be careful. So you have to be careful with your freedom. So all freedom has to be monitored, somehow kept under control. Just because you have the right to speak and say what you want to say, that don't mean you go on your job and start saying what you want to say. They're going to give you a piece of paper and say, go home and say it. And you can say, but I got rights. I got rights. They set this Constitution. Well, you don't always have the freedom to say whatever you want to say. But you're free to say something. Just because you got freedom that you can go and buy the car that you want to buy, that don't mean you go out and buy the most expensive car because you can't pay for it properly. So what I'm saying is, what happened was they got into the land of promise, and there was so much freedom that they just couldn't handle it. So God's going to pour out a blessing on y'all, and he's going to pour out a great blessing on you. But he don't want you to get to the point where you can't handle the blessing. Dr. Simmons, that was an excellent testimony of what God has done. Amen. But I expect for Dr. Simmons to conduct herself like a director. Don't get to the point and say, look, I'm all this and I'm bad and I don't need this no more. Well, you're going to take your certificate and they're going to send you somewhere else. So you must get a handle on your prosperity. Yes. Is anybody with you on that? Yes. Just because you out here and you can live and go where you want to go, that don't mean you go everywhere. Amen. So one of the things that the Israelites, they got into the land of milk and honey and everything was abundant. They had freedom, but God told them to eliminate the Amalekites and all these rights and all these ites and Hittites. They didn't do it. They forgot where they came from. I mean, God blesses you. He's going to bless you, saints. He's going to pour out a blessing on you. I'm just trying to tell you, how do you handle your blessing?
Amen. Amen.
So when he give you that blessing, don't walk around and say, I did it.
Right.
Remember King Nebuchadnezzar stood up and said, look what I built.
Yeah.
And he was in the wilderness living like a wild animal.